But that's really kind of a principle that we're going to talk about if you look in your manual, the principle of the briquettes. And that is that briquettes will not heat up unless they're side by side. You can spread them out. Someone said, listen, we really should pull your man card on this thing, because unless you can put them in a pile, you're never going to really get these briquettes to heat up. Briquettes have got to be in touch with each other and in contact with each other, because what happens is briquettes that are just simply side by side don't have the capacity to really create the heat that's necessary for a movement. And Jesus put his disciples in a process where he put the briquettes together so they would begin to heat each other up, and that's the quality briquettes have. Now it's interesting, you can take gravel, and gravel can lay a gravel out it'll cook all day in the sun, and by the end of the day it'll be lightly warm. Gravel actually absorbs heat to itself. Briquettes radiate and transfer heat. So you look at how does the average Christian in the church work? They absorb everything to themselves. If you've heard people say, I need to be in a church that feeds me, I need to be fed, they're absorbing everything into themselves, heating themselves up, but they're never transmitting and radiating much of anything. In fact, it's really hard to even get them to volunteer in your church. But whenever you have a briquette that radiates heat, it's like a brand new Christ follower. They light up, they're alive, they radiate, they just want to tell people about Jesus. People who are gravel, they just want to absorb everything to themselves. And so you put a briquette next to gravel, what will happen is the gravel will dissipate the heat of the briquette. You've seen brand new Christ followers come into your culture, and they're alive in Christ, and then they get in your church, and what happens in a year, 2 years? They're as cool as everybody else, and usually they're gone. They usually don't stick around. So Jesus knew something very key about briquettes. When you put them together, they heat each other up.
In fact, Jesus, though, also knew, Dan, when the right time was to spread them out. Because if you know how to cook with charcoal properly, you pile them up, use a little bit of lighter fluid, so you didn't need the whole can. The little bit of lighter fluid, you light it, you walk away. But in time, they get white hot, and you need to spread them out. And in Matthew chapter 11, it seems like that's exactly what Jesus understood. He calls his disciples together, and we can kind of determine from context clues. He spends about 18 months with them, but in Matthew chapter 11, verse 1, there's this huge phrase that stuck out that you like to talk about that shows that Jesus knew now it's time to spread them out.